What would you do if an invisible force invaded your home, tormenting your family and whispering the date of your death? In 1817 Tennessee, the Bell family didn't have to imagine this nightmare. They lived it for 4 agonizing years, stalked by what history remembers as the Bell Witch. While most frontier tales faded into folklore, this haunting drew America's most formidable warrior to investigate. As future President Andrew Jackson approached the Bell farm with his entourage, their wagon suddenly froze in place on solid ground. After multiple attempts to move forward, Jackson reportedly stood and declared, "By the Eternal, I'd rather face the entire British Army than deal with the Bell Witch." The entity had claimed its first victory before the battle even began. The horror crept in slowly, like poison. John Bell was walking his cornfield at dusk when he spotted a creature with the body of a dog and the head of a rabbit. When he fired his rifle, the beast vanished into thin air, not running away, but dissolving before his eyes. That night, the tapping began. Soft at first, like raindrops on glass, then urgent pounding that rattled the windows in their frames. The family huddled together as something unseen tested every entrance to their home. By 1818, the entity grew bolder. The Bells would wake gasping as invisible teeth gnawed at their bedposts inches from their faces. Children screamed as their blankets were ripped away by unseen hands. Betsy Bell, just 13, began appearing at breakfast with bruises shaped like fingertips on her arms and deep scratches down her cheeks. "The thing follows me everywhere," she whispered to her mother. "It breathes on my neck when I'm alone." The family's enslaved workers refused to enter certain rooms after nightfall. One described hearing chains dragging across the floor upstairs when no one was there. Another fled the property after being locked in the smokehouse by something that laughed like a woman but smelled like rotting meat. The voice emerged gradually, first as whistling between the walls, then whispers that seemed to come from inside their own heads. Within months, it spoke clearly enough for everyone to hear, revealing conversations the family had in private days earlier. "I know what you did, John Bell," it hissed one night at dinner, "and I've come to collect." Visitors who came to debunk the haunting left pale and shaking. A local minister watched as kitchen knives arranged themselves in a perfect circle on the floor. A skeptical doctor felt invisible fingers probe his face in the darkness. The witch seemed to delight in converting disbelievers, saving its most terrifying displays for those who doubted its power. As word spread, the Bell home became a macabre attraction. People traveled for days to witness the phenomenon, camping in the yard to hear the disembodied voice sing haunting melodies at midnight, perfect hymns that twisted into blasphemy by the final verse. Andrew Jackson wasn't a man easily frightened. He'd survived bullets, duels, and the bloodiest battles of the frontier wars. When he heard about the Bell Witch in 1819, he gathered a small expedition of hardened veterans and a self-proclaimed witch hunter named George Washington, a man who carried silver bullets and claimed to have banished 3 spirits in Mississippi. "We'll put an end to this nonsense," Jackson told his men as they approached the Bell property. "Hauntings are for children's stories." They were half a mile from the house when their wagon halted as if it had struck a wall. The horses strained but couldn't move forward an inch. Jackson ordered his men to search for obstructions. There were none. The wheels turned freely, but the wagon remained frozen in place. As the men pushed and cursed, a feminine voice whispered through the trees, "Go back, General. This isn't your fight." Washington loaded his silver bullet and fired into the air. The pistol exploded in his hand, sending metal fragments into his cheek as the witch's laughter echoed around them. Blood streaming down his face, he fell to his knees as invisible claws ripped his coat to shreds. That night in the Bell home, Jackson's party huddled together as the entity recited private conversations from their journey, word for word. Most disturbing was when it began speaking in the voices of their dead relatives, revealing secrets only the deceased could have known. "Tell them about your brother, Andrew," it whispered, perfectly mimicking Jackson's mother's voice. "Tell them how he really died." Jackson, who had stared down British cannons without flinching, was seen trembling before sunrise. By morning, his expedition packed their wagons, leaving behind their claims of exposing the simple country hoax. Jackson never publicly acknowledged what drove him away, but in private correspondence discovered decades later, he wrote, "Some corners of this world belong to something other than man or God. I'll not return to that place, not for all the gold in the Americas." John Bell's suffering began with small symptoms: muscle spasms, difficulty swallowing, a strange metallic taste in his mouth. The witch had warned the entire community during a church service that it would sink its teeth into old Jack Bell and never let go. As Bell deteriorated, the entity grew more sadistic. It would mimic his painful groans throughout the night, amplifying them until the windows rattled. When physicians visited, it whispered gruesome descriptions of Bell's internal organs rotting while he lay conscious on the bed. One morning in autumn 1820, Bell's son found a strange vial on his father's bedside table containing thick black liquid that smelled of burnt almonds. Before he could dispose of it, the witch's voice filled the room. "That's my medicine for old Jack. I've been feeding it to him for weeks while he sleeps." When tested on a farm cat, the animal died within minutes, foaming at the mouth. The local doctor confirmed it was a powerful poison, likely a combination of arsenic and belladonna, common farm chemicals of the era. Bell's condition worsened rapidly after the discovery. On December 19, 1820, as a winter storm howled outside, Bell fell into his final coma. Throughout the night, the witch sang cheerful nursery rhymes from the ceiling beams, occasionally interrupting itself to provide updates on Bell's failing organs. "His liver's gone now," it announced to the horrified family around midnight. "The kidneys will be next." Just before dawn, Bell took his final breath. The witch's laughter shook the house as it declared, "Old Jack is dead at last. I've done what I came to do." At Bell's funeral, mourners gasped as the church bell began ringing by itself, a slow, deliberate toll that continued long after the sexton had abandoned the rope. Some claimed to see a dark feminine figure dancing on Bell's fresh grave, disappearing when approached. The coroner listed Bell's death as due to unknown causes, though local gossip strongly suggested poison. No investigation followed. Frontier justice had little interest in supernatural murder claims. With John Bell gone, the entity's wrath turned toward Betsy and her fiancé Joshua Gardner. It would appear to each disguised as the other, creating devastating misunderstandings. Gardner would arrive for dinner to find Betsy furious about insulting comments he had made earlier, things the witch had said while wearing his voice. The final blow came when the witch appeared to Betsy as Gardner, confessing to horrible infidelities and cruelties. When the real Gardner arrived the next day, Betsy broke their engagement, refusing to explain why. Only years later did they discover the deception, long after both had married others and the opportunity for happiness together had passed. The Bell Witch legend sits in historical quicksand. The deeper you dig, the more uncertain the foundation becomes. Martin Van Buren Ingram's 1894 book, An Authenticated History of the Famous Bell Witch, remains our primary source, yet it appeared 74 years after the events it describes. Ingram claimed to work from Richard Williams Bell's manuscript, but this crucial document vanished without trace. Not a single page survives for verification. When pressed by critics, Ingram changed his story several times about how he acquired the text. Contemporary records are suspiciously silent. Not one newspaper from the 1820s mentions a supernatural terror that allegedly attracted hundreds of visitors and killed a prominent landowner. The first printed account appears in 1849 in the Saturday Evening Post, lacking many details that later made the story famous. The witch's supposed identity shifts throughout the narrative. First, it claims to be the spirit of Kate Batts, a neighbor who feuded with John Bell over a slave sale. Later, it denies this, declaring itself something from before your God made this land. These contradictions suggest evolving folklore rather than documented events. Yet certain elements resist dismissal. Multiple independent accounts from the 1830s describe strange occurrences at the Bell property. Church records confirm John Bell was temporarily expelled from his congregation for conduct unbecoming a Christian, though the specific offense remains unrecorded, and descendants of witnesses maintained consistent versions of key events decades before Ingram published his account. The Bell property's original home disappeared long ago, but soil analysis in the 1990s revealed unusually high arsenic levels near where the house once stood. Was this evidence of the witch's poison, or simply the residue of common 19th century pesticides? Most intriguing is the Bell Witch Cave on the property, a natural limestone formation where visitors still report disembodied voices and sudden temperature drops. Geological surveys confirm the cave's unusual acoustic properties, which amplify and distort sounds from miles away. Could natural phenomena have contributed to the belief in supernatural voices? Modern theories range from mass hysteria to poltergeist activity centered around adolescent Betsy. Others suggest an elaborate hoax designed to destroy Bell's reputation or cover up abuse within the household. Some researchers believe the haunting was real, but embellished over generations of retelling. What remains undeniable is that something happened to the Bell family, something traumatic enough to enter American folklore and resist rational explanation for 2 centuries. The Bell Witch haunting persists because it occupies that shadowy territory where history and nightmare converge. While skeptics dismiss it as frontier superstition, the story's details, the poison vial, Jackson's hasty retreat, John Bell's mysterious death, suggest something beyond simple folklore. Today in Adams, Tennessee, the Bell Witch Cave draws thousands of visitors seeking answers. Inside its cool limestone chambers, guides recount tales of cameras failing, batteries draining, and visitors feeling unseen hands on their shoulders. Whether these are tourist embellishments or genuine phenomena remains for each visitor to decide. Perhaps the true horror of the Bell Witch isn't the entity itself, but the possibility that some terrors defy explanation. That in our rational world, there remain dark corners where something ancient and malevolent can reach through the veil and destroy a family, while an entire community watches helplessly. As one Bell descendant said in 1935, "Whether you believe in ghosts doesn't matter. The witch believed in the bells, and that was enough to destroy them."